Femboys are a new form of species, which have originated from two different societies, one from the Soviet Union and the other from Nazi Germany. These femboys are very similar in a few ways and also very different in others. And a lot of people do not know the difference between these two, which is why I have made this video, in order to educate people on this matter, which just happens to be very important to me. I've tried to gather the most important information on why the Soviet femboys developed into petite and submissive creatures and the Nazi femboys became dominant and superior. So let's just start off by the Soviet femboys. Centuries of "we ran out of food again" has sculpted the Soviet femboy into a naturally willow creature. From the famines of the early USSR to the breadlines of the 1980s, the body learned on a genetic level store nothing, expect nothing, and look gorgeous doing it. While Western femboys were snacking on Pop-Tart, or the Soviet femboys was surviving on black bread and an ideology. The results: sheep bones became sharp enough to cut glass, and a waistline that would make a Victorian corset jealous. Collective farming also played a big role. When everything is shared, the land, the harvest, the tractor, the dreams, nobody gets too much of anything. Collective farming didn't just redistribute wealth, it redistributes calories with brutal efficiency. Every potato belonged to the state, and the state was not particularly generous. This produced generations of slender, delicate-boned people who moved quietly and ate small portions out of deeply ingrained habits. The Soviet femboy doesn't diet, he simply remembers from what it used to be like previously. And Russian literature also did this to them. Imagine growing up with Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Chekhov and Turgenev as your primary cultural diet. Every protagonist is either suffering magnificently, questioning the meaning of existence, or doing both simultaneously, while staring out of a frost-covered window. By the time a Soviet advanced femboys has finished The Idiot, Anna Katarina, and The Cherry Orchard, he is existentially exhausted, emotionally overwhelmed, and completely incapable of asserting dominance over literally anything. He can, however, suffer beautifully, which is arguably more impressive, and that is the main reason why the Soviet femboys became how they became, which is different from the Nazi femboys, which are a lot more dominant and not as submissive, so you have kind of like a push-pull relationship between the Nazi femboys and the Soviet femboys. The Nazi femboys push their way into the Soviet femboys, and the Soviet femboys do what they can to give back, which technically isn't a push-pull relationship, which is more like a give and take, but you get the point. So let's start here with the femboys, or the Nazi femboys. Hugo Boss designed those outfits that made the Nazi femboys into who they are today, and apparently the leather and authority combo never fully left the aesthetic imagination. He literally designed the SS uniform, and whatever dark magic he embedded in those sharp lines, that high-colored black wool, and those angular silver insignia has apparently proven impossible to fully exercise from the femboy aesthetic imagination. The Nazi femboys inherited this legacy, even stripped of actual ideology and aggressive authority that is very difficult to make soft. You can put eyeliner on Hugo Boss or on a Hugo Boss silhouette, but you cannot make it submissive. The clothes simply will not allow it. The whole ideology was compensating for something. Historians, psychologists, and frankly anyone paying attention have noted that fascist movements tend to emerge from and appeal to deep wells of collective insecurity, wounded pride, and status anxiety. The hypermasculine, domineering performance of fascism was always, at least in part, an elaborate overcorrection for perceived weakness. The Nazi femboy has inherited this energy in its purest distilled form. Someone presenting as feminine while performing maximum dominance is a way for compensatory energy all the way down, and it is, against all odds, a compelling aesthetic. I will bottom for no one on ideological grounds. When your foundational aesthetic is built around a worldview that treated submission as the ultimate disgrace and dominance as the supreme virtue, a certain stubbornness about power dynamics become almost ideologically mandatory. The Nazi femboy may wear a skirt and have a perfect winged liner, but he has apparently decided that his submission to anyone on any level would represent a betrayal of the entire aesthetic project. This is deeply silly. It is also somehow extremely committed and consistent branding, which is very interesting for the Nazis. And these are the main points that help to explain the difference between Soviet femboys and Nazi femboys. If you have any question, just send a comment or like the video. I will do my best to reply to everything. And peace out.